Leader, be a friend first. Haftarat Vayigash. Haftarat Vayigash is special. Haftarot can generally be divided into two types, narrative and prophetic. Those in the narrative genre are more memorable, while the prophetic ones are usually less. What's unique about the Haftarah Vayigash is that it stands out and is memorable despite its prophetic nature. In fact, it probably belongs to a third genre, narrative or parable-like prophecies. In our parable-like Haftarah, Hashem tells Yechezkel to take two pieces of wood. On one he writes for Yehudah and the children of Israel Chaverav, his companions or friends, and on the other for Yosef, the wood of Ephraim, and all the house of Israel Chaverav. The prophet is to join the two pieces of wood, and when the people ask him what he's doing, he must answer that the people will eventually return to their land and the kingdom will be united under a king from the house of David. This is the short and simple story of the Haftarah. At a slightly deeper level, there's room for several questions, the central one being asked by Rabbi Moti from Yeshivat Golan. Why would the children of your people say, "What are these to you"? Isn't it clear that the woods with the names Ephraim and Yehudah written on them represent the kingdoms of Ephraim and Yehudah? To answer this question, Rabbi Moti reminds us that Yechezkel is prophesying approximately 150 years after the exile of the kingdom of Israel and almost 400 years after the United Kingdom was split. For us as Bible students, it's clear that the prophecy refers to the unification of the kingdoms of Israel and Yehudah. For the fresh Judean exile that Yechezkel is speaking to in Babylon, the kingdom of Israel is no more interesting than, for example, the kingdom of Edom. Both were neighboring kingdoms, both were sometimes at war with the Judean kingdom and sometimes their allies. Neither sees the temple as their central place of worship. Both, in fact, are not Jews, as in not from the kingdom of Yehudah. This is a point worth emphasizing. In Tanakh, some Judean kings try to reunite the kingdom through various means. Rehoboam, for example, attempted to do it by sword, but at the last moment listened to Shemaiah the prophet and retreated to his reduced kingdom's borders. Yehoshafat tries to unite the kingdom militarily, economically, and through marriage. His military ally is killed, economically his ships sink, and the marriage almost leads to the destruction of the house of David. These processes are accompanied by prophets who explain that despite Yehoshafat's righteousness, Hashem doesn't like the connection to the kingdom of Israel. As we said, biblical history does not encourage the understanding that the kingdoms of Israel and Yehudah are one kingdom. This understanding could have implications for the perception of the current redemption, but in my cowardly fashion, I'll beat around the bush without touching it directly. I will stay in the comfort zone of words, verses, and commentators, and only take quick glances at the frightening fields of current events. One of the interesting expressions that repeats itself a lot in the Haftarah is Israel Chaverav, or his companions or friends, with slight variations. On one wood will be written for Yehudah and for the children of Israel, his companions. On the second for Yosef, the wood of Ephraim, and all the house of Israel, its companions. And when the time comes to join the woods together, Hashem will take the wood of Yosef, which is in the hand of Ephraim, and the tribes of Israel, its companions. Even at this stage, a question arises that I'm not going to address, despite it being worth addressing. What's the difference between children of Israel and all the house of Israel and the tribes of Israel? The question I'll ask instead bothers me more. When the prophet speaks of the staff of Ephraim, Israel reminds its companion throughout. However, for some reason, when the wood of Yehudah joins the wood of Israel, Israel is no longer Yehudah's companion. Why? We can talk historically. Throughout most of the monarchic history, most tribes of Israel are associated with the king of, surprise, surprise, Israel. Hence the emphasis on the connection between Ephraim, the head of the house of Israel, and the tribes of Israel. The kingdom of Yehudah shares far fewer Israelites, and thus we reduce their companionship. Why then did we mention the children of Israel, his companions, at all? Radak notes that in the verses there's a kri and ktiv. Although we read his companions, it's written his companion. It refers to the single tribe that joins the kingdom of Yehudah, the tribe of Binyamin. Malbim offers a different interpretation. It's about stages of redemption. Initially, the tribe of Ephraim will rule, and all of Israel will be his companions. This is the redemption of Mashiach ben Yosef, the economic redemption. Only afterwards, upon reaching spiritual redemption, will Hashem crown David over the people. Malbim's words can have two immediate implications for our question. First, despite the status of finance ministers in the current state of Israel, it seems to me that it's easier to build a positive relationship with someone who gives you money than with someone who demands your spiritual correction. Second, the Israeli leader, unlike the Judean leader, is not defined in the Haftarah as a king, and a king doesn't really have friends. It's lonely at the top. But it's worth noting one last point that comes before the transition from the Israeli to Jewish rule. David doesn't begin the Haftarah as king. He is first my servant David, or David my servant, and only then king over them. Before Yehudah can claim the kingdom, they needed to correct the Rehoboam ben Shlomo's mistake. If he had listened to the advice of the elders who said to him, "If you will be a servant to this people and serve them, they will be your servants all the days," the monarchy would not have split, and to this day my servant David would be king over them. This is how Yehudah, his ancestor, behaved in our parasha, when he offered himself as a servant instead of his brother Binyamin. And this is how leaders are made. In loving memory of my beloved and heroic student Amichai Shimon ben Ishai and Batya Rubin, Hashem Yikom Damo, Dovi Holtz, one who loves Tanakh.